Welcome everybody. My name is Ron Pierce. I am the past president for the Guilford Rotary Club. What we're going to talk about today is membership and membership growth strategies, and what we did as a club to kind of change things up in our club and to make things better and to help encourage growth. I want to give you a little background information about what we are as a club and about our size. So when you look at these numbers, you're going to notice that we're a pretty decent sized club. And we grew until about 2016, and then something started happening. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this as a club, but all of a sudden people just started disappearing, and we didn't know what was going on. So-and-so didn't show up anymore, and Susan wasn't there, and Bob wasn't there. Next thing you know, 2 or 3 people were gone. And so what had been 52, by the time I took over, was 40. Now, I had gone to Membership Summit a couple of years, and so I had seen these numbers, but the year I became president, or right before I became president, and I knew that was our number, I knew we had to do something different, because you know as well as I do that 40 people in your club is great, but if only 20% of the people show up, that's not a lot of people. And so we had to do something different, because otherwise we weren't going to be able to do fundraisers, we weren't going to be able to do projects, so we knew we had to do something to change this number. So what we're going to talk about is what we decided as a club to do to make things better for our club. Okay? So the first thing we had to do was we had to do a change of mindset with the club. Now, I know that a lot of you have heard, and it comes down from the top, that +1, just +1, you know. And what they're really saying to the presidents is, don't kill the club. Just whatever you do, don't kill the club. If you can grow 1 additional person, that's great. Well, +1 really doesn't help a club grow. That's life support is what that is. It's hanging a bag of fluids on the patient, but that's not making the patient any better. And so if +1 is our goal, we don't really have much to strive for here. So I had to do something a little bit radical, and so this is what I told our club: screw +1. And everybody just kind of looked at me and went, okay. And I said, we're going to do something different. This is going to be our goal this year. We're going to do +10. And their eyes got this big, and they just looked at me and went, Ron, we've never had a year where we were +10. That's unheard of, especially with the fact that a normal club is going to have attrition of just, you know, people leaving or somebody passing away. They're going to lose somewhere between 10 and 15% of the club members every year. So if we were going to end up at +10 at the end of the year, that meant we were going to have somewhere between +15 to 18 new members in 1 year. So obviously we could not keep doing what we were doing for that to happen, because we were at 40. So something had to change. So what did we do? What got us to this direction? Well, the first thing we had to do was this. We had to have a come to Jesus meeting. And so those numbers I showed you at the very beginning, those numbers got shown to the club as well. And it changed the whole attitude of the club, because the club realized for the first time where Bob and Susan had gone, and the fact that they weren't coming back. They weren't being replaced. And the next thing we knew, we were down to 40, and all of a sudden they realized, if that's how fast we are jumping now, we got to change quickly. And the people who came up to us after the Come to Jesus meeting were the originals. Now, some of you like to call them the older members of the club. I call them the originals, because they've been in the club for 30 plus years. They're invested in the club. They don't want to see the club disband or die. So they came up and said, Ron, what can we do? How can we get involved? Now, I'm going to tell you up front that if you're planning on growing your club, you have got to get the originals on board. There's absolutely no way you're going to grow a club with just the new members or the fresh faces. It's not going to happen. If the originals are not involved and they are not on board with what's going on, it will not happen. So for us, that was crucial. And I will tell you, that took time. I spent, during my president-elect year, I sat at their table. I asked them about the good old days. I wanted to get them involved in what I was doing before I ever took over as president, because if they weren't on board when I became president, I was going to have a hard time getting them on board at the very beginning. So By having that come to Jesus meeting, they saw what was going to happen and what needed to change, and they were there because they had already invested in me before I ever became president. So the next thing we had to do was talk about the problem to solve. PTS. Now I heard a speaker at an international convention in Toronto, and he talked about this, and he said, you know, a lot of people, when they're trying to figure out what's wrong with something, they try to fix the symptom and not the problem. Well, thinking about that, our declining membership was truly just a symptom. It wasn't our problem. So what was our problem? Well, our problem was we had lost our passion and purpose in being Rotarians. I mean, think about it. There are people who've got passion all the time to go play golf every weekend. Okay? You're not going to get them away from the golf course. It doesn't matter what comes up. They're going to be there. They've got a passion for playing golf. Why didn't we have that same passion for being in Rotary and attending our meetings? It wasn't there. So we had to figure out how to get this back, because we weren't consistently focused on helping others. We were listening to speakers or talking to in the meetings with each other. I mean, it was just kind of a social gathering. Maybe we'd write a check or something, but that, you know, that was it. And then we'd do the big project occasionally. But we really weren't invested in what Rotary was about. We had to get back to our passion, and we had to get back to our roots. So we had to change our focus, and we had to change it in the club, and we had to change it in our weekly meetings. So how do we do that? Well, the first step was I had to give our club more opportunities for service. Now, you're probably like our club in that you do big projects. You know, maybe there's some things that you do outside the club meetings. You know, tell everybody to show up, you know, and again, 20% show up. You know, things like that for the club. But we had to do something a little bit different, because I need to get all of our Rotarians back in the mindset that we are here to help the community. So we did something called micro projects. Now, a micro project happened at the meeting location. We didn't go off-site anywhere. It happened where we meet every week. And it could be done in 30 minutes or less. So we did it instead of a speaker. Okay? This was key. The weakest member of our club, the elder of the club, had to be able to participate. So whatever we did, it had to be something that they could do as well. Okay? So, what is an example of this? We did coloring books for kids at Moses Cone. Now, how did this work? I went and got coloring books and crayons in gallon-sized Ziploc bags. I had everybody get a coloring book, everybody got a pack of crayons, rip out a sheet out of the coloring book, and I want you to color it. You have not seen anything until you have seen an original 75, 80 years old sitting there coloring a coloring page. And they were laughing and having a great time doing it. Then I told them, sign it, put your name, and then put your age. And they just kind of looked at me like I had lost my mind. We put the coloring book and the crayons in the Ziploc bag. We put that picture they had just colored right in front of it, a little sticker that said this came from Rotary, sealed it up, put them in a box, and I took them over to the hospital. We distributed, or let the hospital distribute them out to the kids who were sick, but the parents were the ones who really got what had happened, because they saw those pictures that said Larry, age 80, had colored this, and they chuckled. And if you've ever had a sick kid and been in the hospital, you know that laughter is something that's very hard to come by. So not only did we brighten the kids' day, we brightened the parents' day as well. This was getting everybody involved in Rotary, and everybody could participate, because there's some of my originals there, and they're coloring, and they're having a great time doing it. Okay? And take a look there. We had a guest come. What a great way to introduce somebody to Rotary. Look, we're doing a project for the community, and we're doing it right here while you're with us. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything special. They actually got the flavor of what Rotary was about, and it was something different. It wasn't just a speaker. Now, here's another example of what we did. We had a Rotarian who was given 5,000 socks from a local hosiery mill and said, here you go. He brought them, we dumped them on the table, and we started matching. Everyone could stand around or sit at a table and just match socks for 20 minutes. When they were all matched, they were put in a bag and they were given over to the local homeless shelter to be distributed. Everyone got to participate in that. No one felt slighted, and everyone felt like that this was something that was worthwhile. This is the kind of project you can do as a micro project. Now, let me also just say real quick, where do you get micro projects from? The easiest place to do is Google, source of all knowledge. But if you will Google vacation Bible school for kids community project, okay, you will get lists that come up, Pinterest boards that just show you projects that can easily be done, because I hate to say it, but if a kid can do it, a Rotarian should be able to do it as well. So tweak it a little bit and now you've got your project. But it'll give you all the supplies you need, and a lot of times you'll see organizations you didn't know that you could help, that you could donate to and do a project for. So give you the next step we did. We had to change the focus of our meeting. We had to go guest-centered and be focused on that first-time attendee. Now, I don't know about you, but if you've ever visited another Rotary Club, even though you may have been in Rotary for years, the way a Rotary Club does their way, a lot of times it's different than your home club. And so you kind of feel a little lost. But you get the idea, you know the basic gist. Well, imagine if you're a first-time guest. Or imagine, if you've never been to a Rotary meeting before in your life. And what are these people doing? And what does this mean? And it's very confusing. So what we had to do is we had to make sure that the Rotary meetings made sense to a guest, because you want them to come back. People who feel lost are not going to return. Nobody likes feeling lost. So if you want someone to come back, they got to feel like they're part of the meeting. And so that's what we did. So let me give you an example. Four-way test. We all stand up and we face some sort of banner or sign that's got the four-way test, and we recite the four-way test. If you're a guest, you have no clue what that is. All you know is that there's a bunch of people and they're standing and they're praying to some four-question test. You haven't got a clue. So this would be something I would say each week. I'd ask everybody to stand up, and I'd say, if you will turn and face the yellow banner, you're going to notice that there's a four-question test that's listed on that banner. We call it the four-way test. And what it is it's four questions that Rotarians ask themselves to make sure that what they're getting ready to do is a win-win situation for everyone involved. So this helps us to make sure that we're treating ourselves right, but also treating the other person right. And so we recite this every week so that we can keep that in our memory, and so we can actually influence the community, because it's part of who we are. Now, if you're a guest, now you get it. And so when we say the four-way test, you're actually interested in knowing what those questions are and why those are important. And they realize that really those questions are important. They start connecting and go, you know what, this may be the kind of organization I want to participate in, because they seem to have the values up front that I have. Now you're starting to get people already thinking about Rotary, and all it is staying the four-way test. So no one's feeling lost. Everyone's part of the meeting. Now, another thing we decided to do was conversation starters. I don't know if you've run into this. We run into this at our club. Everybody sits at the same table and it's the same conversation every week. Every week. How's your kids? How's the wife? How's the family doing? Hey, so-and-so back in school yet? It's always the same thing. So if you got a guest coming, they sit down at that table, they don't usually get talked to, do they? It's usually the same people talking and then acknowledging that there is somebody there, but rarely do they get conversations started. So what we did was we said, okay, enough of that. So we put a little stand on the table, and I had a white envelope that had a pre-printed question inside the envelope, and I would tell everybody, it was like starting to mean, if I'd randomly pick somebody, whoever's wearing blue at the table, or whoever has the least amount of hair, you grab the envelope and you're going to start it. And the question might be something, what's the best book you've read recently? Or growing up, what was your favorite cartoon? Something like that would start the conversation. Everybody gets to participate. It's going to be questions that the people who normally sit with each other have never asked each other. So they're going to learn new things about each other. But the guest doesn't get to feel like that, they're the stranger in the group, because nobody knows each other's answers. Everybody's on equal footing. And that's what a guest wants to feel like, that they're just as much a person in this Rotary Club as anyone else. And so that's what we're helping them to do. So every question was different. No one knew, and it was random. And the thing we avoided was this: the same people at the same table asking the same question and never involving the guest. Because if you really want to be honest with it, it's wrong and it's rude. That got changed. Next thing we did was we said we're going to make you, reward you for being a Rotarian. So how are you going to do that? Well, we created these little sheets of paper and had them printed that said Rotary Hearts in Action. And so every week, if you showed up, you could write your name on a sheet of paper, and whatever you did to help the community that week, whatever hours you put in, put that down. If you worked Cub Scouts, maybe you did Sunday school, or in your synagogue, you helped out some way. Maybe you went and mowed your neighbor's grass. We didn't care. It didn't have to be under the Rotary banner. But if you had that Rotary heart and you were in action, we wanted to reward you. So what we would do is we would take all of those sheets of paper and we would put them in a basket for a weekly drawing. Now, I don't know about you, but you probably have like a 50-50 drawing. We do, okay? And so when the pot gets so big and someone finally wins it, the first thing that happens as soon as they win is everybody congratulates them, and then the next thing that happens is the person comes up to them and says, so now which one of the Rotary organizations are you going to donate that pot to? And so the next thing we do is we give them a guilt trip, okay? No more guilt trips. I wanted to get rid of that. So what we did was we said, you're going to have a winner every week. We're going to randomly draw, not just when the pot gets big, and we're going to give you a gift card. And that gift card is going to be random. It's going to be from $10 to $100. It might be to Lowe's. It might be to Home Depot. It could be a gas card. Who knows what it went to. We put them in envelopes, shuffle them up, and the person whose name got pulled had no clue which card they were going for. All they knew is they were picking an envelope. And then they would open up the envelope and tell everybody what they had won. Could have been $10, could have been $100. But the main thing was that it encouraged attendance, because now members had another reason to show up. Because if you're not there, you can't put your name in the drawing. So you want to come and participate. And the other thing was that guests and first-time visitors could participate as well. You didn't have to be a Rotarian. If they did something in the community, they got to put their name in the drawing as well. And I will tell you that on a couple of occasions, we had guests who actually won the big prize of a $100 gift card. They were thrilled, and yeah, they came back. So. All right, now the next step was we had to get serious about recruiting members. Y'all invite somebody. Now, don't forget to invite somebody. That doesn't work. You know as well as I do that people just aren't going to do that. So how do we get people to actually want to come to Rotary? Well, we had to do this the way we were told in the membership summit, and that was do something called Discover Rotary Days. These were days that were already planned, that happened once a month, and it would partner with a different Rotary club, okay? So for us, we partnered with the Airport Rotary Club. And what we would do is we'd alternate each month where the meeting held. So one month it would be early morning, 7 a.m. because Airport Club is a morning club. And then for us it would be 11 o'clock because we're a lunch club. For 1 hour, what we would do is talk about what is Rotary and why you may want to join. We had a PowerPoint that was provided by us. We had the same people that every time would do the same slides. It was very much practiced, rehearsed, ready to go. We didn't try to recreate the wheel for this. We knew that this slideshow worked, and we knew that we could be successful by it, so we didn't change anything. And what we found out was that both clubs got so good at it that people actually started coming to these meetings because they felt like it was done professionally. Because if you feel like it's not going to be so good, you don't want people to see it. But now it was getting actually pretty good, and so people wanted to see it. And we had members who would learn things. Oh my gosh, I didn't know we did that in Rotary. They've been members for 10 or 15 years. But what's interesting is we'd have 6 to 10 guests usually that would show up between the two clubs coming together, and usually each club would pick up 1 to 2 members within 90 days. But there was follow-up. Phil, who was coordinating all of this, made sure that he emailed the people and said, you come back, invite you to lunch. It was constant follow-up. You can't just do this once and then hope they show back up. That's not how it works. It's a plan, and we followed the plan, and the plan worked. Now the 5th step that we did to change our club was we had to create something new, and we knew that we had to tackle the millennials, and we knew that part of what they're built in is they don't like necessarily to have to give up time and be in meetings. So what were we going to do about that? Well, we created a new membership type called service only, and the big thing about service only, one, was the due structure. We changed it so that instead of paying $200 plus a month for food and everything, we knocked it way down and basically took the food part out of it. So all they were doing was paying what was necessary to be Rotarians and to be Paul Harris members. So $25 a month. Okay, very easy to do. So now what about attendance? Well, They weren't required to attend the meetings, but they were encouraged, because Rotary International has stripped away the membership requirement and saying that you got to be there, at so many meetings, 60% of meetings, and do makeups. They took that out. So it allowed us to be able to say, if you want to be a Rotarian and you want to participate in the project, come on. If you can't make a meeting, don't worry about it. But now, if you do make a meeting and you want to have a meal with us, we'll bill you for that meal, and we'll just include it in your next, invoice. So it worked because they weren't excluded. Because you know as well as I do, if you're not in the meeting, you're going to miss half the info. So we made sure that they always got emails, they got newsletters, that they got involved and kept involved, so that they could participate. Now, did it work? Yeah, you see it says 4 there. We actually picked up 6 new members from just including this. And what's interesting is 2 of those new members show up just about every week. Even though they're not part of the lunch, they're still there. And the other thing about this is this created a safety net, and we didn't even realize it. But when you've got Rotarians who, $200 a month or $200 a quarter doesn't make sense anymore, and they probably need to drop the Rotary Club. Well, now, what if we convert you from 200 to 75 and you still stay a member? Would you stay in the Rotary Club? Yeah, I could do that. So now you've got a safety net and you don't lose the members. And we had 2 members in our club that happened to that year, and so they're still members of the club. All right. So the last step we did was, and this is what I call a sprinkle of chaos. We had to do some stuff different. We had to mix up the meeting. And you know what this is like, because if all you've got is speakers and all they do is show up and talk about their 501c3, oh my gosh, please get me out of the room as quick as I possibly can. I'm a Rotarian. I'm trying to help the community as well. I don't have unlimited funds. I get it. You need money. So we had to change this. So the only 501c3s that really started speaking in our club were the groups that we were already helping. They were giving us updates and letting us know what we were doing and how we were contributing. The other ones, we filtered way down. So what was some other things we did? We decided to have game days. Okay, the club meeting was just a game day. So we did something called the first annual Minute to Win It contest. And if you've never seen Minute to Win It, I tell you, go to YouTube and just Google Minute to Win It. But you will see games galore that you could play. It's very easy. We divided into teams, in blue team versus red team, and they would randomly pick who was going to participate and go after the contest. And then they went at it and they loved it. Let me give you an example of one of the contests they had to do.
Face the cookie. The human face is composed of many muscles with 2 large groups that help make a smile or frown. In this challenge, the contestant must move a total of 2 cookies from their forehead to their mouth using only their facial muscles. If a cookie drops, the contestant may reset another cookie on the forehead and try again. Failure to complete this task in 60 seconds may result in elimination.
Alright, so now you haven't seen anything until you've seen the original stick an Oreo on the top of his forehead and sit there and move his mouth and trying to get it, catch in his mouth. It's hilarious. It's great fun. But they got involved and they loved it. It wasn't the speaker. It was something different. Here's another thing we did. We had an ice cream social. We just had a quick lunch and then had ice cream out on the grounds, and then we brought cornhole bowls in, and then people played cornhole and had ice cream sundaes. 30 minutes, they had a great time. And everybody participated. So, it's a combination. You never know what the meeting was going to be. And that's what I wanted, was a little bit of mystery. And I know a lot of you have newsletters where you put each week, what's happening, who's speaking every week, or on on the calendar or on the internet. What we did was we just put question marks. You didn't know. Speakers, sure. But if it was going to do something different, it's question marks. So you had to come to the meeting to find out what was going to happen. But one of the things we did was we said to our members, we're going to make you participants in this. In other words, you either have to find the speaker or you have to come up with what we're going to do, and so that everybody participates instead of the one person trying to figure out everything for the 52 weeks. It's crazy. Everyone got involved, and so we had quite a few random kind of things to be done for our meetings. Okay? I know that was a lot of info. We threw it at you really quick, and I'm hoping that you got some ideas from this. I will tell you that what we did it work? Well, remember my goal was plus 10. At the end of the year, we were at plus 11, and we had lost 0 members. So I'm telling you, it can work if you work it and do it right. But what happened did not happen overnight. It was 18 months worth of planning to make it happen, because it took time to get people on board and for things to work. So I'm going to stress to you, work it. Be slow, methodical, but go after it and set the goals high. And do your own thing. Be creative. And quite honestly, I'm hoping you'll share with the group what you do, because I'm looking for some new ideas. Thank you.